Welcome to the next lecture of HTML basic coding. So in today's lecture we will talk about CSS of HTML. Although we will cover CSS in detail and I will create a full-fledged course about it, but today I will tell you that what's the difference between external, internal and inline CSS, which are basically three types of CSS. So three of them are effective, but the difference is that external CSS is basically used in big projects or companies. For example, there may be the case that one person is working on HTML file and another person will work on a CSS file. So in that case it would be easy and our HTML code will not be populated with CSS and it will be really clear because there is a default CSS file in which we can work and make our changes at the same time and make our changes directly to our HTML file. Next one is internal CSS, which is used directly in the head tag, and we write our default code and apply it to all the elements in the HTML file. And the third one is inline CSS, which has been written directly in the tags, for which one will apply in the case we use all of them. In that case, only the inline CSS will be applied because priority of inline CSS is more. But I will recommend and there is a proper usage of three of them. Normally people use external CSS because it is having a separate file, and when we make changes it apply to all of them. So it's really difficult to make changes when you have inline CSS because your code will not be that much readable as well. We will cover CSS in detail, but today we will just discuss it and give it an overview because we will use tables, forms and different layouts in HTML. For that purpose a basic level of CSS is really important. So I have opened a default HTML file, and first I will tell you that what is inline CSS. So inline CSS is basically written directly in the tag or element. For example, in that case I have h1 element and I am giving it some color. So style color is the property and red is the value. Font size, for example 50 pixels, and font family, for example verdana. So this is basically our inline CSS. If I give it to the paragraph as well, for example the color is blue, font size is 20 pixels, and font family is sans-serif, for instance. So this is our inline CSS. Well, I'm launching it in the Chrome. So as you can see that this is our heading which has been red and this is our paragraph which has been blue. For example, if I want to give background color to my body, then how I will do it? So I'll simply write inline CSS style is equal to background color. For example, let me give it ADD 8E6, which is I think a light blue one. So as you can see that our background color has been changed to light blue. This was inline CSS. Now I want to use internal CSS, then how I will do it? Internal CSS is used with starting style tag and ending style tag. So all our CSS will now be written in those style tags, starting style tag and ending style tag. And how it's done, it's basically done in the way that we will return the name of the element. We have, for example, h1, and we will start left brace and then right brace. Whatever style we want to give to our element will goes in between those braces. The same will go to, for example, our next element, which is paragraph, starting brace and ending brace. For example, I want to give color to h1, so I will write a property and then simply colon, and whatever color I want to give. For example, I want to give green, and font size I want to give 40 pixels. Font family I want to give verdana. The same is the case in paragraph. For example, I am giving color blue and font size 15 pixels, and font family sans-serif. Now the question arises that we have applied inline CSS here and internal CSS here, so which one will work? So that's obvious that our inline CSS will be applied and our internal CSS will not work, because the priority, as I told you, of the inline CSS is more as compared to internal CSS. It will not show any effect because the inline CSS is already been applied, so our internal CSS will not work. In that case, what will we need to do? That we will have to remove our inline CSS. We need to remove it because one style will be applied and not both of them. So now in that case, when I refresh it, so as you can see that our internal CSS has been applied. The third one is basically external CSS. We will now talk about that how we can use external CSS. For external CSS, you have to create a new file and save it by the name of, for example, styles underscore HTML. Now this time you will now have to save it by the extension of .css. Let me find where is .css. So here, cascading style sheet. Actually, CSS stand for cascading style sheet. So now I will not save it by .html but .css, because this is CSS file, and we will actually externally link it to our HTML file. We will do this linking. It's in that way that we will use linking. It is like link relation is equal to style sheet. What does it mean? That the file now I am including is having the link with this file as style sheet, because our CSS file is a style sheet. We are giving style to this page from our CSS file, so it will be included in this file as a style sheet. So the relation is of style sheet. And what file we are including? We will give href. Remember, we have discussed href in the previous lectures. So href is used for linking purposes. As I told you before, it's really important. So here we will give the name of our file. So the name of our file is styles underscore html dot css, and we will simply close it. Let me repeat it again. The link relation to this file, which I am including styles underscore html dot css, to this file is of style sheet, and this is the default way of including external CSS to your HTML file. So now what styles I am going to apply to this file will be written in our CSS file. So first I need to remove our internal CSS because we don't need it right now. So for example, I have h1 element. We will simply write the name of our element, and opening and closing braces. It is same of the internal CSS, but it's written in the separate file. So in that case, for example, I want to give the color red, font size 50 pixel, font family verdana, and we have a paragraph element. Let me give it color green, font size 15 pixel, font family is actually sans-serif. Let me refresh it. So as you can see that the external CSS has been applied. Now in CSS there are two more properties which are important, and we need it because in the coming lectures in tables creations or form creations and different layouts we will need them. One is actually border property in CSS. It means that we need a border around our element. For example, I am giving it a value of 2 pixel. It means that I need a border of 2 pixel with solid or dotted lines. It will show that how will your border looks like. So if you want it to be solid, then it will be solid, and if you want it to be dotted, then it will be dotted. There are many, not just these two, we will discuss later. So for example, I'm giving it solid 2 pixels solid, and let me give it black 2 pixels solid black. When we refresh it, so as you can see that there is a border around our paragraph. Added with border, there is one another property by the name of padding. So padding is basically the distance between the border and text. We can see that we have a border and a text inside it. So if we want to have some space in between these two, because it's look not good, so we want to have some space between this text and this border. So how will we do it? We will use padding. In that case, for example, I am giving 30 pixel padding. So as you can see that the distance between the text and the border has been increased. We will discuss padding in detail in the CSS course, but for now you should understand that the distance between the border and the text is called padding. There is another property by the name of margin. Margin is basically the outer distance. For example, the distance between the border and the outer space, or the left side, or the distance this distance or this distance, or you can say this distance is called margin. For example, I am giving 20 pixel margin. So you can see that this distance has been increased. So it is called margin. Not confuse yourself. The padding is the distance between the inner text and the border, but margin is the outer distance between the border line. So guys, this was about CSS in HTML, the basic level. We will discuss CSS in a separate course in detail, and we will also cover CSS 3 different effects, animations, and so stay tuned, and bye for now.